Hi, I'm Mitch Seekins, the vocal coach. Ever wanted to know what it takes to be a pro vocalist? I know what it takes, but why not listen to the people who are already there? Welcome to my Sing Like a Pro interview series, where you hear from the professionals themselves what it takes to do what they do. Oh, and if you like this and perhaps learn something, hit that subscribe button. This episode features the amazing Luna Lee.
Rolling away, I'm sipping on rosé, turning gold into gray and the silver into rain. Rolling away, I'm too young for my age, too shy for the stage, too careful to be brave.
Luna Lee is an incredible singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist who is making a huge splash in the North American scene, selling out shows in LA, San Francisco, New York, to name the few that I know about, as well as beginning the festival circuit. We've been working together now for a few years in prep for her touring career to open up after the lockdown and stuff, and the release of her very first solo album, Duality, which happened at the beginning of March of this year. Her artistic sensibility is off the charts, not only showing through her music, but in her visually stunning videos as well. Hope you enjoy. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. The purpose of this video is to, get information out to young and upcoming singers, just like yourself, into actually understanding what it is and the effort that it takes to do, what you are doing, because a lot of people have misconceptions out there, and it's so nice to get so many different perspectives on people like yourself who are professionals and are actually out there making all this stuff happen. And so getting some info in behind the scenes and what it takes, I think would be really, really helpful for people. So thanks.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
So how old were you when you started singing?
I was singing just for fun in the house since I was like 2 years old.
Yeah.
So there was lots of music in my house growing up. My mom taught music classes for toddlers when I was a little kid, so she was very well versed in like the kind of circle games and that kind of thing that kids do, and we would do that with my siblings at home. And then she joined her partner in running a music school when I was a little older, around 8 or 9. So I was always surrounded by music.
Always surrounded by music. Yeah. No, that's great. And so when did you turn pro?
I don't think there was like a specific moment where I would say I like turned pro, but I guess after high school I went to McGill for violin. I felt like there was some more structure in the classical world. There was a bit more familiarity there for me. And then after doing one semester, I realized it was not what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to go back and start making my own music. So I moved back to Toronto, and that's when I kind of started playing in bands for the first time. I did a course at Seneca College in like basically how to be an independent artist. And I guess that was kind of the turning point for me, where I realized that I wanted to pursue being an artist.
Right.
But I don't know if I would call that pro right away, because I was really just like playing at house shows, playing in people's basements, playing to 5 people. And then slowly grew from there.
Yeah. My definition is probably old school, but my definition of turning a pro is when you actually get paid for it.
Right.
So house shows, I'm presuming you'd get something, even if it's, $25.
20 bucks.
Something. $20 is something. So
splitting the door.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. So you played in other projects before you started your own thing?
Yeah. My first thing was a band called Veins, which was sort of like pre-Luna Lee project. I was like kind of afraid to call it a solo project because I was a bit shy and I kind of wanted to like hide behind the facade of a band, even though I was the one who was writing all the music and everything.
So it was still your project, though. It wasn't
still
like
my
you weren't
project,
a
yeah.
hired gun, so to speak.
Yeah. So it was my project. I had my boyfriend and his friend playing in it with me. It was a three-piece at the beginning. So that was sort of like my first thing. And then I played in a few other bands. I played in this band called Mother Tongues, which is a really cool psych project. I played keys. And then I still play in this band called Tange once in a while. It's kind of like a punky girl band where I play drums, which is really fun for me.
Really?
I would not call myself a drummer, but like, it was just something fun for the three of us. It's like a side project.
Yeah, because I know that I didn't know you played drums. I know that you're a multi-instrumentalist. I mean, you do guitar. I've seen you do bass. I've seen you do harp. So drums, keyboards, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up in the music school environment, you got to be able to play with everything.
Yeah, it was great. I started with piano when I was 5. That was my first instrument. I did classical piano and violin growing up.
Yep.
And then
of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then I started learning guitar when I was 12, and that's kind of when I started like breaking off from the classical world and like starting to do covers and writing my own songs and stuff like that.
Great. And so the one thing that I've always been really impressed with you is you have such a distinct, definitive sound, and it's combining that with the video stuff, like I posted the artistic level is phenomenal. I love it. I think it's great. Was that kind of an organic growth for you, or is it something that you started and then you thought, okay, I want to tailor my sound and I need to discover me as an artist and my own vocal sound, because we're talking about singing, all that sort of thing. What was that like?
I guess like it was a little bit of organic and it was a little bit of concentration and figuring out and taking time. But I mean, I guess after I left McGill, I sort of abandoned my classical background. I came back to Toronto, got really involved with the Toronto music scene, specifically the rock scene. And so that first band, Veins, that I was talking about, we did kind of more like a garage rock sound, and because that was like really the sound that was happening in the scene at the time. And it's what I thought was cool. Like I was like, violin's not cool. I'm gonna put down my violin and play guitar instead. Like, so that was kind of where I started out. But then as I went along, I kind of realized I wanted to incorporate the violin, but I just didn't really know how to add it in without it being kind of more like folksy or country sounding, because that's kind of like, more the types of bands where you hear violin, and I knew that wasn't really my style. But then for one of my birthdays, my grandma asked what I wanted for my birthday, and I asked her to buy me a loop pedal. And I was kind of intending to just use it with my guitar, but then I decided to try plugging my violin in to see what that would sound like. And I realized I could build these like lush orchestral sounding layers, and have it feel like really big and beautiful with just like one instrument. Yeah. So from there, that was kind of the turning point where I was like, oh, okay, like this is how I want to incorporate the violin. I want it to sound like big and dreamy and orchestral and cinematic. And so that's when I started really like incorporating my classical background into this sort of like rock sound. And then I also started learning how to play the harp, which was more recent for me, maybe like 5 years ago. And that is just like a really beautiful, dreamy, classical sounding instrument. And I'm still working on it, but I really love using it as a production tool. Like just adding a little bit of harp on the song really elevates everything.
Yeah. So, but then from a vocal standpoint, so the music came first, and then you had to figure out, okay, how am I going to approach this from a vocal standpoint?
Definitely. The vocals kind of came later. Like I wasn't really focused on the vocals at first, because like coming from an instrumental background, that was sort of like always what came first for me, and like the songwriting and the lyrics and that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, I guess I just like kind of sang how I felt natural, and then eventually I realized that like I wanted to kind of stylize it a little bit more and have it feel a bit more like intentional.
Good.
And yeah, I mean that was probably like around the time I started taking lessons with you as well.
Yeah, because
Um,
we've been working 2.5, 3 years, something like that. Something like
yeah,
that.
I can't
It's been a
believe it's been
while.
that long.
I know it's been a while. Time flies.
Yeah. And I kind of, yeah, the vocals was something that I definitely like brushed off at first and um yeah, it was like kind of underrated in my world, the importance of vocals. And then yeah, since we started working together and like as I started to hone my sound a little bit more, um I guess I just started diving in more into really thinking about how I could use vocals, layering them, using harmonies and choral sounds and different textures and stuff like that.
See, that's great because, you know, trying to convey to people how much effort is involved in doing something like what you do. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just validation. It's lots of time, lots of experimentation, not being afraid to fail, you
Yeah.
know, try different things. Some things will work, some things don't, you know, but it's
Mhm.
and like, did you enjoy that journey though? Like that experimentation? Did you enjoy
Yeah.
that?
I always loved making music and like I think at the beginning it took me a while to make music that I felt like I would listen to if it wasn't my own music. Like when I
Yeah.
finally got to that point, I was like, okay, now really feel like really proud of this. And I mean, like it's sometimes tough at first when you're like, I'm making this music, I think it's fine, but like it's not like exactly what I want to do. But you kind of just have to go through that process and write those kind of first songs before you can get to that place.
Yeah, and then with the experimentation with the vocals, you know, finding what works and what doesn't work. You didn't
Yeah.
like when something didn't work, it didn't, you know, drag you down and go, oh God, that just sucked. I just, you know,
Yeah,
for
I just
me, for
moved forward
example,
with it.
exactly. For me, it was always really interesting because, okay, if that didn't work, okay, well, note to self, okay, that kind of
Yeah.
sucks. Okay, what can I do? Because it's that inventive, it's that
Mhm.
artistic thing and trying different things and not being disillusioned
Yeah,
when things don't work.
for
You know,
sure.
it's just it is a process. So
Mhm.
you just released your very first record. So
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
thank
That's
you.
awesome. That's awesome. And it's been a long time coming. And the first records always are, you know. And is this so you have gigged um somewhat. You haven't really done a solid massive US or national tour as of yet, have you?
My kind of first longer tour was last fall. We did 6 weeks with Japanese Breakfast.
Right.
So that was my first kind of real tour. Prior to that, it was definitely just like around the Toronto music scene and,
Yeah.
going to Montreal for the weekend, that kind of thing.
Right. Because my question is, have you ever thought about the vocals while you're recording in terms of, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the record. How am I going to do that live? Did have you got to that point?
When I'm recording or writing vocals or any of the music, I never think about how it's going to be live. Like, I just, do what I feel in the moment because
Yeah,
a lot of my stuff is so heavily layered and there's just so much of the arrangement is like really dense,
yeah,
which is tricky to pull off live. And like, I don't like to burden myself with thinking about how I'm going to do that down the road.
right.
But then we just end up having to like rearrange stuff and rework stuff for live, which can be cool too because then you have two
Yeah,
separate versions.
exactly.
So that's fun.
Yeah, warming up. So tell us, what do you do before a show or a recording session? Do you have a routine?
Well, I do the file
You do
that
the
we did
warm up
together.
file that we
I
did.
always
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a great warm up. Um, it like preps me and makes me feel like I'm ready. Um, you know, being sort of starting out, sometimes that warm up ends up being done in the van, in the bathroom, like all over the place, in the
Always.
back alleyway, like,
Yeah,
you know,
always. Yeah.
sometimes you don't have a proper green room, so you kind of just have to improvise. I've literally done it in like the public bathroom in the venue before, and I'm like, I can hear people coming in. I'm just in the
Oh, I
stall
know.
right
Yeah,
now.
weird sounds and yeah. But it is important to get those muscles working and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, the message, for the people that might see it is it trying to just overcome the shyness of
Yeah,
prepping for the show, because what's important is the show, not
absolutely.
necessarily your feelings before the show. If you can pull off an excellent show because you've done a proper warm up, I mean, there's
Worth it.
really, yeah, not much better feeling than that. The feeling of accomplishment and
Yeah,
there's just a
absolutely.
joy. There's just a joy to it. Usually now I ask about, have you had any vocal problems while you're touring, and how have you overcome that? But you're new to this,
I am new to this,
you
and I
know.
did not have any problems on the 6 weeks we did. Like, it was
Right.
very intense. The schedule was, for the most part, 6 days of shows, 1 day off, and that
Whoa.
was the whole thing.
Holy cow. I
Yeah,
didn't realize that.
yeah, it was very fast paced.
Yeah.
Several of them were like, you know, 3 shows in Seattle or 2 nights in LA, so we kind of got to settle down and be in one
Mm,
place for a little bit.
yeah.
So that's why there was, you know, just so much going on at once.
But still, there's going to be press. There's going to be meet and greets. There's going to be like, because
Yeah.
I always tell my people, it's not just the show
Yeah.
that's so hard on the voice. It's everything else: the rehearsals, the sound checks, the meet and greets, the interviews. You're
Hmm.
using your voice the whole time, and if you
Yeah.
fatigue your voice out during the day doing that stuff, which is important to do, it kind of leaves the show difficult
Yeah.
to do. Where are you going on this tour? Well, I know there's issues visa wise, but once you get going, so East Coast and then hopefully back to the West Coast. Are you doing stuff in the
Yeah.
middle?
Um, we're planning some stuff. We're kind of rescheduling some of the dates that got
Yeah,
postponed for the
yeah.
West Coast. We had a bunch of shows there, and then we're doing New York, Philly, and Washington.
Mm,
And then I have a small run opening for Biba Doobie, which is in April. We're
yeah.
doing several dates in California, which will be fun.
Okay.
And then I'm also planning some Canadian dates for later this year, and then
Great.
probably another US tour in the fall. So,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
Have you thought about stuff to take on the road to help with vocal recovery, that kind of thing, like the humidifiers that I'm constantly talking about? Watch the humidifier video; it's very good.
Yes.
Zinc and vitamin C and hydration levels. Do you just drink lots of water and all that sort of? You do all that stuff that we talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also just like a big water drinker. I drink so much water in the day, so I just
Yeah,
make sure I always have that with me. The vitamin C, the zinc just in
just in
case.
case. Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
all my vitamins, trying to stay healthy and like eat well, which is sometimes tough. Also,
Really
just like being
difficult.
on the road, I'm vegetarian, so sometimes it's like we're in the middle of nowhere and all there is McDonald's, and then I just have to eat fries for lunch or whatever.
Ugh,
But for the most part, we try and like stock up. We'll go to like try and go to like some healthier grocery stores and get some healthy snacks and that kind of
yeah,
thing, just to make sure that we're
yeah,
like still getting all our nutrients while we're
yeah.
on the road.
Yeah, greens, like powdered greens
Yeah.
drinks, like Greens Plus. There's so many of them.
Hmm.
Those are great to take on the road as well, because you can
Hmm.
just throw that into a glass of orange juice or something, and
Yeah.
that'll give you energy plus nutrition and
Yeah.
stuff, and help
With the
keep you.
orange juice on the rider, you'll have one every night.
Exactly, exactly. Do you have anything on the rider?
Yeah, we have like usually we just try and do like fruit and veggie trays,
Perfect. Yeah,
like some chips, granola bars, that kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It was tough last time because I felt like we had to learn what we could do without wasting food.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like you ask for the veggie tray or whatever, and then like there's so much left, and then we would try and bring it in the van, but then like it got buried under some bags, and then we were like, "What's that smell coming from the van?" So sometimes you just have to like be smart about what you ask for, so
Yeah.
you can like
Yeah.
reduce the
Yeah.
waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever had on my rider was a fruit tray.
Nice.
Because pineapple is fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And with fruit, you can utilize the energy right away. There's really very little digestion in it. So it was oranges, pineapple, cantaloupe, honeydew melon, and apple slices. And because you can, when I was doing the opera stuff and the shows,
Yeah.
the shows there would always be an intermission, so you could kind of load up on some sugar to get through the rest of the show.
Nice.
At the end. So what's the biggest show you've done to date, like so far?
Like in terms of
People,
like the biggest
size.
audience?
Yeah.
I would say probably when we played at the Head in the Clouds festival, which was last November.
That looked pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to play the main stage. There was a whole runway, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And I think it was the biggest crowd that we've ever played to.
Yeah.
It was really exciting.
So in terms of preparation for a show that size, did you pay more attention to it because it was new? Or like in terms of big shows, little shows, or is it all the same? Do you just do everything the same so far?
I would say mostly the same. Like, regardless of whether it's a big show or a little show, like I want to do my best and sound the best that I can and have the set be tight and impressive. Like, a smaller audience deserves as good of a show as a bigger audience. So,
and sometimes it's more fun.
Yeah, because it's more intimate. You can connect with people on a higher level. Yeah, that's nice. Obviously, there's some differences in terms of like the way I'm performing. Sometimes
there'd be more stage movement.
Really big, if there's a huge crowd. But yeah, I think both are really special, and I really enjoy the different aspects of each. So
we've been working together for a long time, like we said, 2.5. Like it's been a long time. I'd have to look back. So any thoughts on studying and how it's enhanced what you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped so much. And like just being more aware of my voice and like my body and how I'm feeling and how that affects my performance is a really big help too, because it was not always something that I was aware of before. Something that I, like, as I said before, kind of like overlooked the vocal parts of the project for a lot of the time.
Yeah, most people do, because there's this unconscious thought that, well, we can talk, so we must be able to sing, when it's actually a lot more complicated than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think taking lessons, like, really helped me, I guess, like, express what I wanted to express in a better way, just because I was like able to do it at a higher level. And also just like being on tour and playing shows, like I definitely feel like stronger, I have more control, and even like with the sound too, like singing more forward and singing more clearly really helps. Like for the most part, when you're starting out, like the sound can be really, really bad at some of the shows, especially when you're playing in a basement. I think like I didn't realize like the way I was singing like could actually affect like how my voice cuts through the mix.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
just all of those things.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that when you are dealing with a really bad stage sound, unless you've committed a lot of the stuff to muscle memory, what ends up happening is that you start to manipulate the muscles in the throat to try and compensate for what you're not hearing, which just wears the voice out like crazy, So in those instances, the work that we've done and all that will really save your butt, essentially. I
definitely feel like my voice has been healthier too. I mean, I remember like several years ago before we started taking lessons, I would like sometimes lose my voice before a big show because of like all the stress from prepping, you know, for weeks and weeks, and like just not taking care of my body enough, and just like doing so many rehearsals and probably not singing the most healthy and like in the right way, and not doing vocal warm-ups and that kind of thing. I remember like losing my voice after a show and that kind of thing, and then like doing 6 weeks with so many 30 shows was no problem. This fall.
The endurance is much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that we've done that, you know, you've noticed as a big game changer, or is it just kind of an overall thing?
Yeah, I think just the strength and the control that I've gained have been a really big game changer. And like, I notice it when I'm making new music that like I feel that I can go further with the melodies that I'm making, and like it's just opened up a little bit, just more options for me to try out. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, it ends up being a larger instrument. So instead of, you know, this much, you have this much, which people don't necessarily think is, you know, okay, that's a little bit more, but then you have full control. You can do texturally, because I've always, you know, like I've always said, singing isn't just notes and words. It's notes, words, and textures, most importantly, because that's how you communicate with a vocal, with a vocal. You know, it's what you do with that sound. So if you have that extra room plus all the control, it's so much fun. It is
really fun.
Yeah, it's a great instrument. Have you gotten to a point, you know, singing live where you just kind of sink into a vocal and just kind of everything disappears? I call it the zone. Have you got there yet?
Yeah, I think I've gotten there. A lot of my set is like I'm playing instruments at the same time too, so it's kind of like a blend of everything.
I know.
But this tour is actually the first time that I have a few songs that I'm not playing, I'm just singing. So I'm really looking forward to that, and just kind of see how that plays out. I think it'll be really nice to be able to like just get really into it, get into the zone, and like just being able to like go up to the audience and connect with them more instead of being stuck at the mic stand. I think that'll be exciting.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And have you practiced that? Have you been working with that? Because a lot of people, it makes them feel like naked and vulnerable, because I don't have my guitar.
You don't have anything to hold. I mean, on the last tour, I had a song where I put my guitar down halfway through and did that for half the song.
Oh, okay.
So I like had some practice in that, and then just like at rehearsals, I've been practicing doing that. And I don't know, I think also like because I have a dance background, like I did ballet for 15 years growing up, and like modern dance and stuff like that. I think that really, really helped with my stage presence too, and just like being comfortable in my body on stage.
Absolutely huge.
It's a big learning curve, like learning how to perform, and it took me a while to like really get comfortable on stage. Like I think my first show, I was just standing there like with my guitar and not moving at all.
Oh yeah, I remember my legs shaking for the first 5 songs of the very first set I ever did. It settled down after that, and I had a lot of fun after that. But man, those first few songs are very, very nerve-wracking. And then, you know, because there's so much tension, if you crack and then you feel bad, and it's hard. It's very hard. I always thought I was not that great, but I was so addicted to singing. I didn't care that I didn't think I was not great. I needed to do it anyway.
Definitely. I mean, I think like many artists are like that, like their biggest critic, right?
Yeah.
I'm definitely very self-critical sometimes too, but it is like you said, you love it so much that you just got to keep going.
You just got to keep going. Do you have any extra personal tips that we haven't talked about that you might send out there to other vocalists that are up and coming or anything?
I mean, I think like something that I've learned from like doing our lessons and just like thinking about my voice and singing more is just like singing every day is so important, because like as we talked about, the voice is really a muscle, and it's like really about keeping it in shape. And I think when I first started out, I kind of would only sing when I was like either playing a show or rehearsing or recording, and like even just like singing around the house every day and like kind of keeping it light and fun is just really important, to just, you know, keep it going, keep your muscles in shape, and keep enjoying it too.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
That was awesome. Have a wonderful tour. Congratulations on the record. And I'm going to include some links below to the videos, which I think are fabulous videos.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully you'll come to my hometown and I can see you live.
That would be great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Bye. Thanks for watching. I'd like to give a shout out to the people who made this all possible. A huge thanks to Luna Lee for doing the interview. Thank you. And to her manager, Dexter Brown from Inside Pocket Music for sending me the media and permissions. If you like this, hit that subscribe button. I've got lots more to come.